So, welcome to Capricorn Yoga. This is part of a series that I'm teaching to bring together the zodiac and your body and a little bit more awareness of that. So, what does Capricorn Yoga mean? Basically, today we're going to explore some postures and exercises that help strengthen some of the areas that relate to Capricorn. Now, you may not be someone who was born under the sun in Capricorn. Right now, the sun is in Capricorn, so it's Capricorn season. But I am, so I do connect with that zodiac sign quite a bit. But all of us have the characteristics and qualities of the different zodiac signs. It's kind of like archetypes where some of us have things that are maybe a little stronger than others do. And by practicing in this way and bringing more attention to these different areas of the bodies while we're in the season of that sign, my hope is that you can bring out a little bit more strength in that area of the body and also maybe tap into some of the qualities and characteristics that these zodiac signs and characters, if you will, have. So Capricorn rules the knees and the bones. So we'll start there. But before we do, let's just go over, because some of you are like, but I'm not a Capricorn. So what's my thing? What's my area of the body? So real quick, I'll show you, I'll go through them 1 through 12. And if you ever like looking out at the stars like I do, and you are anatomy geek like I am, just a little bit, that's kind of where this all came from. It's like, I love the stars. I love the mythology and the folklore behind it and the body. And I'm also inspired by a couple of other mentors in my life, like Dr. Stephanie Marengo, who wrote a beautiful book called Your Body and the Stars. So Aries, any Aries here live? All right, so Aries rules the head. So you can do a little game of head, shoulders, knees, and toes with me for a little bit. So Aries, we say the head of the ram. And then the next sign is Taurus, the neck of the bull. Then come the hands of the twins, Gemini. How many Geminis do I have here? Yeah. And then we have the chest of the crab, the heart or the back, upper back, the heart of the lion. And then we go to the belly of the Virgin, Virgo. After that comes Libra, so the back of the scales, the lower back area is ruled by Libra. And then we get to the hips, which is, oh no, excuse me, I missed the sexy organs of the Scorpio. So this whole area of the groins was ruled by Scorpio. The hips and thighs are Sagittarius, so it's the hips of the centaur. Yeah, I see some claps, clapping hands. And then we got the knees, Capricorn, right? After that, we have the low leg and ankles of the water bear, Aquarius. And then the feet of the fish. And that takes you from head to toe through the zodiac. And as we move through these different classes in the series, you'll learn a little bit more about them. But mostly it's, an exploration, and the zodiac can offer a lens through which we can see ourselves and the universe, and also in this case, our body, and have a little fun with it. So that's my little intro. Let's do a little breath work and centering, and then we'll work on our knees tonight. I just want to mention that this class is intended to help strengthen the knees. So we're not actually going to be spending a lot of time on hands and knees, because some of you have some sensitivity in the knees. And even if you don't, I want to make sure you know that we can take care of the knees without having to actually have weight on the kneecaps in particular. All right. So come to a comfortable seat. Take a couple of breaths. Maybe whatever I just mentioned has you tantalizing about the different body parts that you, or the sign that you connect with most. Or maybe you're thinking about somebody that you know or love and what that might mean in their body. And notice what it feels like to be you right now. Notice your physical presence. Notice your emotional presence. And notice your breath. And breathe with as much ease as possible. In and out through the nose, as best you can. And perhaps say these words softly to yourself like a mantra. I am my body. And I am so much more than my body. I am my body. And I am so much more than my body. Breathe tenderly. And start to lengthen your exhales, letting them disappear into space a little bit longer before you take your next breath in. And then let go of any control you have over your breath. Continue breathing naturally. And open your eyes when you're ready. And if you have a blanket nearby, that can be extra useful. You might want to grab your block as well. All right, so if you have a blanket, you're going to take it and either roll, so you have a smushy roll. You don't want it too fat, so another option is to fold it a couple of times. But you want sort of a skinny roll, or sort of flat roll, that you can extend your legs over and place that blanket roll underneath the backs of the knees. And this is a nice thing to do, especially if you ever sort of feel a strong pull or you did a little bit too much to one of your legs and you want to still be able to do things like folding forward but have some support. But this is where we're starting, just to explore. So take your hands and rub the knees. They do a lot of work. In fact, they are in charge of movement, pretty much moving us, moving our body. They take us all the places we want to go. Thank goodness for the knees. And then maybe take both hands and fingers and kind of poke around. Like, have you ever touched your knee and poked around and felt the kneecap and all the other little bony nodules around the lower part underneath the kneecap, closer to the shin, and then the meatiness above the knee where the quads come in, the muscles. We're not going to take an anatomy lesson, but I will mention quadriceps, which are this group of 4 muscles on the top of the thigh, and the hamstrings, which are the back of the thigh. And those are the 2 muscle groups rather, go ahead and touch the other knee so that the one that you're paying attention to is not the only one that gets all the attention. But the hamstrings and the quadriceps are the ones that are in charge of the majority of the movement related to the knee. In fact, if you now lean back onto your hands, just so you're comfortable, and straighten your knees, your heels will come off the floor probably, and you'll feel and see the engagement of the quadriceps as you straighten your legs, right? So your quads are in charge of the straightening part, the extension of your knees. In terms of bending, that's flexion, we call it, and the hamstrings are in charge of that movement. So you can kind of feel around and notice the legs, the meatiness of the quadriceps, and then maybe the hamstrings feel a little bit more stringy, right? Or a little more firm than, say, the fronts of your thighs. And just thank all of these body parts for existing. Now, Capricorn rules the knees. So we're going to be focusing on the knees, but I just want to mention that the sign before it, which is Sagittarius, for those of you born in end of November, early December, rules the hips and thighs, right? So the hips actually give us direction. So if, for example, you wanted to go to the left, you can't just turn your knee to the left by itself, right? Can you try? It's hard, right? It doesn't work unless you turn your hip out to the left. Then your knee and foot will follow, right? Same thing if you try to turn to the right. You're actually rotating from higher up above the knee into the hip socket, and that's what gives you the direction to move in that way. All right, so this is just a little bitty exploration. Two of the other things that can help, other than just strengthening and stretching the quadriceps and the hamstrings, are working with the outer edges of the hip, which are called the abductors, and the adductors, which are the inner thighs. So some of the stuff we're doing tonight is going to be working on those two areas as well. So let's start there with the inner thighs. So take your legs a little bit wider apart now, and you're welcome to sit up on your blanket if that's helpful. You don't have to take them ultra wide, just somewhere where you feel some sensation or stretch through the inner legs. And let's use this as a place to warm up the side body as well. So take your right arm up and over and arch to the left, any amount. And you can take a little wave-like motion. Now, something about Capricorn that some of you may already know is that it's all about structure. So think of if it rules the knees and bones. Bones are the structure that gives us our shape, right? And then all of the other tissues around us are much softer and more malleable, but the bones are the structure. So waving and flowing is not something Capricorn is good at. So we can incorporate that a little bit. Let's go ahead and switch to the other side. Wake up your left side body by arcing to the right. And you can add a little fluid movement here. And you'll notice that a lot of the exercises we're doing today, we're going to be holding the postures and stable in them. Capricorn is very grounding, earthy, right? Think of this time of year right now, everything is rooting down into the roots of trees. Nothing's flowering in early January, late December. All right, come on back up. Lift your chest up through center and now start to fold any amount between the legs. This will increase a little bit of a sensation either in the inner leg or maybe a little bit on the backs of the knees and thighs. So pause for a moment and just breathe naturally in and out through the nose. And then walk your hands back up, scoop your legs together and shake them out so you can tap the backs of your knees against the floor, see them bouncing. and down. Now this bounce really is a bending and straightening of your knees. Those are the two things your knees can do. Your knees cannot do circles or wibbly wobbles sideways. If they do, please go see a doctor. Right? There's very little wiggle room in the knee joint because it's a hinge, much like a door. You can bend and straighten. You can open and close the door on the hinge. Okay, let's lie down. And if you have a block at home, grab it so that it's nearby so that when you're down on your back, you can reach for it pretty easily. All right, and then come on down with your back on the ground. Pull the knees in towards your chest, but hold the hands on the back of the thighs. So that's the hamstrings. And this is to allow your knees to bend only as much as they like to bend on their own. So this is the flexion that's passive and normal. Now for some of us, if we were to grab the front of the knee and pull closer, then the knee might bend a little bit more. That would be active flexion, or where there's some force applied to be able to flex or bend even more, right? And there's limits, and everybody has a different limit. So you might check what it feels like to pull one knee a little closer to your chest. First, just letting it be, and then with the hands on top of the knee or shin. And you might notice there's some differences there. You might feel some feelings in the hip too, because that's part of this. All right, and then keep a hold of the hands on the left knee and straighten your right leg down. So you're in a wind relieving pose. Take a breath in here. Squeeze knee to chest. And then keep the right hand on your left knee and drag it across your body for a feel-good twist. Hopefully you'll also get a little stretch through the outside edge of the hip, which is one of the things we do want to stretch in order to keep our knees healthy. But the rest of this twist should feel pretty good, opening up the body. Then roll back onto your back. Switch the knee. So your right knee comes in towards the chest, the left leg goes long. Wind relieving pose, other side. And then gently pull the right knee in towards your chest, any amount. Now prepare for the twist on the other side. So with your left hand on the knee, right arm out to the side, roll over onto your left side into the reclined twist. And then come back around through center. Nice. Now draw both knees back in. And just for a moment, bend and straighten them in the air. So there's no load or weight on your legs, on your knees. This is how they can bend and straighten. And if you can hear mine pop a little bit, which is not really a great thing, but it's something that I'm working on with strengthening my knees. You may also have some cricks and pops. And you might also notice that they bend and straighten a little bit differently, or as you bend and straighten each side, they feel a little different. Like my right one feels like it can straighten a little bit more than my left one, even though I'm straightening them as much as I can. So those are all normal things. Okay. Place the feet flat on the floor for bridge pose, and take your hands down by your sides, palms face down. Push the feet into the floor and lift the hips any amount. And then lower the hips back down. Now change where your feet are on your mat. So maybe take them really close to the foot side of your mat, farther away than you might normally do. Just as part of an exploration to see if your feet are in a different spot, how does this affect your bridge pose and how your knees feel and your legs in the bridge. It's kind of funky, a little bit different. Then maybe take them super wide and then lift up into your bridge. Or maybe turn the feet out at an angle and lift into your bridge. And then decide, okay, I'm exploring here. How far apart do you want your feet? Where on your mat do you want them? And then press up into bridge and hold. Nice. Let your breath fill the entire torso, belly, ribs, and back. And then press a little stronger through all four corners of your feet. So you might kind of feel yourself pushing towards the head end of your mat. That's okay. Notice what that does to your legs. Feel the buttocks working hard too. And then lower your back down on the floor and take a counter stretch. So either stretch out or squeeze in, whatever feels good here. And then if you have a block, or you can take your blanket all kind of bunched up and place it between your thighs. You want something to squeeze in, and you can skip this part if you don't have or don't want. And depending on where you decided you like to have your feet on the floor, you might have the block on the skinny width or the middle width. You can kind of decide there. And then place your feet back down onto the floor, hands down by your side, and try a bridge again, now with the block between your feet. Now when you get up to your highest point, you might decide that the feet really want to be in a slightly different place, and that's okay. Squeeze the block gently with the inner thighs, working that line of muscles in the body. Breathe as best you can in and out through the nose. Try one or two more moments here. Press a little stronger into all four corners of the feet. And then lower your bum back down. Here is a counter stretch. You might like reclined butterfly with the soles of the feet together and the knees wide. Let the inner legs stretch out and release. And take the hands to help the knees back together. Feel free to do any other counter stretch or squeeze. And then we'll do another thing here from our bridge positioning, except we won't press up into bridge. So I mentioned the inner thighs, and you might have felt those with the block between the legs in the last bridge variation. This next exercise is specifically to try to strengthen the part of the muscle group right at the top inner part of your knee, which is the part that you see kind of first, not the kneecap, but the soft part right on the inner thigh. So keep your left knee bent with the foot flat on the floor and straighten your right leg down along the ground. Take your right toes to 2 o'clock. So your foot's at an angle, but your leg is super straight. Flex the foot a little bit too, so there's some action there. And then lift the whole leg, keeping it straight, up so that the knees are the same height. So your right leg is going to shoot out from your hip at an angle, not super high because you kind of lose it at some point, but just so that the knees are the same height, except one's bent and one's straight. And then hold it here for a second. Keep the knee as straight as you can, and then lower back down. Stay engaged on that right side and lift it back up. Same leg, same side. Shooting out at an angle from your hip. Nice. And then lower back down. Try 4 more of those. Lift, hold, and then lower. Lift, hold, and then lower. And hopefully what you start feeling is a little bit of maybe heaviness or tiredness in that inner kneecap muscle area. Now, the reason why we're focusing on that in particular, especially here at the beginning, is that about 90% of knee pain is a result of a weak inner thigh. And so things get pulled to the outside where it's stronger, and then things get out of whack. And because our bone structure tends to be, hips are wider, and then the knees, the bones get a little bit thinner, right? So we've got sort of that V shape down to the feet. It's just a natural tendency of most humans. All right, take a break so that you can switch sides. Leave the right foot on the floor now. Straighten the left leg down along the ground. And then turn the left foot up to about 10 o'clock. Straighten that leg as much as you can. And then lift the left knee to the same height as your right one. Nice. Now I can feel this faster on this side. Just means it's my weaker side. You might notice some differences too. It just confirms that we're not the same on both sides, and life has happened sometimes more to one side than it has to the other. All right, try 3 more on this side. Are you starting to feel some feelings there through the inner leg? Nice. And then take a break. Go ahead and take the feet wide on your yoga mat and swish the knees like windshield wipers from left to right a few times. All right. And then roll to one side so you can press your way up to sit. Nice. Come on to hands and knees, and I did promise that we wouldn't be on our knees for very long. If you have your blanket, I recommend it for underneath the knees. And if you have 1 or 2 blocks, bring them to the front of your mat under your hands. For this next part, we're going to stretch out the front of the thigh, the quadricep muscles, and the hip flexors in a lizard style lunge. So take your right foot to the outside of your right hand, so that your hands are inside and underneath your shoulders. You can have the hands on blocks or you can have them on the floor. And you might feel some feelings in the inner right thigh. You might feel some stretch through the top of the left thigh. And you can play with scooting your left knee back or forward depending on how you feel. And then pause here. Feel some of that stretch sensation through the front of your left side, all the way up the side body. If you want to take this up a little bit stronger, curl your right toe under. Curl your left toe under, the one that has the knee down, and lift the left knee. So now you're in an active lizard lunge. Your hands might be pressing a little stronger into the floor or blocks. And you can squeeze your right knee in towards your right shoulder. Nice. Push the right foot a little stronger into the ground so that you're working the leg as opposed to using all of your arm muscles to hold you up. And when you're ready, lower the left knee. Slide the right one back, take a moment, wiggle the hips from side to side, and then step your other foot forward for the lizard lunge. So now your left foot is outside of your left pinky finger. Hands are on the floor or maybe up on blocks. And wiggle around. Feel free to move your right knee around on the blanket. If you need to bring less weight into this shape, you can shift the hips back slightly. That's where the blanket comes in handy so that your knee is happy on the floor. Option to lift your right knee if you choose, coming into the active version of the pose. And then maybe squeeze the left knee in tight towards your left shoulder. So you're working the inner leg muscle by squeezing it. Push stronger down into your feet so that this is more about your legs. And then lower your right knee down. Take a moment, slide your left foot back. And here you might be tempted either to sit the hips back slightly in child's pose, although not everybody's knees loves that. So instead you can rest your forearms on the ground. Or if you feel like it, downward dog can be nice. Just stretch out the backs of the legs. Feel into the left and right side. Something where both left and right are working in the same way. And then walk your feet towards your hands. Take your time. Standing forward bend. And bend your knees a little bit more. Straighten them-ish. And notice the movement of your knees here and how it affects you in the shape. These are the two movements the knees can do, bend and straighten. And now there is weight on the legs, right? We're standing on the feet. So it's a little different than when we had them upside down in the air. Bend your knees and pause there for a second so you can take your hands to the tops of the thighs, come up halfway, and then push the feet into the floor to stand in mountain pose. Nice. So stand strong in mountain pose, feet any distance apart, and strong and straight through the legs. Just exaggerate the straight knees for a moment. And some of you might feel that even more so now, one knee feels maybe a little straighter than the other, even though they're both as straight as you can possibly make them, right? So just notice that difference and then let that go. Bend your knees slightly and then straighten them again. Just notice how they move slightly differently and feel slightly differently. All right, bring your block or your blanket roll in between your thighs. So just above the knee, probably on the skinny or maybe on the medium setting. You can change your mind in a moment. And then sit back into an imaginary chair. So Utkatasana with the block. Sometimes after you bend your knees, your feet decide they want to be a little bit closer. That's fine. You can hold your arms straight out, or you can bring them to your hips. Or if you want more heat in the shoulders, take them up by the ears. I'm going to leave them straight out in front. Squeeze the block gently through the inner legs. Notice the heat building in the legs. And as best you can, breathe in and out through the nose. Squats are a great way to activate the bones because the bones in our legs are the most dense and heaviest bones. We can feel a little more grounded and anchored this way too. All right, take a break, straighten the legs, lower the arms, and take the block out so that you can try your chair pose again, this time without the block. Some of you will like it, and some of you might miss the feeling of support or something to hold on to, if you will. When I do this without the block, I tend to feel more sensation in my ankles, actually. So you might have a similar experience, or you might be feeling more of the work happening in the low back, hips. And then take a break. Ooh. All right. Separate your feet a little bit more, not super wide, maybe under the shoulders. And then slide the hands down to the tops of the thighs. You can stay right here in this squat variation. Or if it feels possible to reach either fingertips to the floor or the palms to the floor, or maybe hands on blocks, bring them inside of your feet so that your forearms and your shins are close to one another. This is where the squat's going to get a little exciting and more heating, which is what we want in Capricorn season when it's cold, right? So start to squeeze the knees and the shins in towards your forearms and your upper arms. And play a little tug of war by pushing back. So you're pulling in with the legs, but you're pushing out to resist with the arms. Nice. I know it's getting hot. We won't stand here forever. Try to lengthen your exhale. And then from here, you can either straighten the legs to release, come into a forward fold, or hold onto the tops of your thighs and come up halfway. Yeah. When you're ready, come up all the way. Woo. Third and final squat shape. Take the feet wide. This one should be more fun, hopefully. And you can take your toes out at an angle. Now, what angle? That depends, and you can change your mind in a moment. We're going to head into goddess pose. So bend both knees, and then maybe straighten. Adjust your toes slightly to a different angle. Bend and straighten. And find a spot where you feel really strong and stable. Bring your hands to the tops of your thighs and try to straighten your arms. Now that just depends on how long your torso is compared to your arms. But what I'm trying to get you to do is push down so that your thigh bones feel really heavy. Nice. And then lift the hands and take them a little further down the thigh towards the knee. Push down. For some of you, you might turn the hand so that the thumb is in. That might feel better. And then keep going, maybe another inch or so. Push down. This is where you might feel yourself holding yourself up almost. Nice. And then give the work back to your legs. Take the arms out wide, goddess arms, or God pose, Om Deo. Feel a little fire through the legs and the belly. And then take a break, straighten them out. Woo. Turn the toes over towards the right. Bend your right knee and then straighten it a little bit. Preparing for warrior two. And as you bend and straighten the knee, you might notice that the toes kind of disappear. That's awesome. And then pause with your knee bent, hold. If this feels like you got too wide on your mat, maybe slide your back foot in a little bit. If you want to take up more space, reach the arms out across and notice the direction of your knee. That's the way you're going, right? Your front knee. Your thigh has decided the direction, your knee's going to take you there. Press strong into your back foot too, so this back leg and knee are working for you. All right, so when you're ready to take a break, straighten the right leg, heel toe the feet around to the left, or do a little switcheroo, and then bend and straighten your left knee a couple of times. This is also to help you decide how far apart you want your knees, or your feet rather. And then pause and hold the shape. Maybe take the arms out across the mat, or out across the room. And look in the direction that you're going. Where are your knees taking you? Take a break, straighten the legs, turn the feet back around to the first side, the right side. Keep the legs straight for triangle pose. And take the arms out across the room again. This time with the legs straight, reach forward with the right hand as far as you can get. And as you do, start to feel how the inner leg is both working and maybe feeling some sensation or stretch. Keep the leg as straight as you can. So when you straighten your right knee, you might feel that the muscles of your quad engage. See if you can do that or look at that. And then if you like, spin the arms for triangle shape. Nice. And press down into the floor, rise up, switch sides. So turn the feet around so your left foot is pointing to the left. And now with the legs straight, lean forward with your left hand as if you're going to touch that side wall. Straighten and strengthen through the leg, and then maybe spin the arms. If you can smile, you're doing it right. Nice. Press down into the feet, rise back up, and then walk your feet in towards each other. Give them a little shake. right, so we worked a lot of inner thigh and the front of the legs mostly. So now what we need to do to balance that out is stretch the back and also the outer thigh. So that as we come down to the floor, that's what we're gonna focus on. So start with the legs out long. Maybe give them a little tap. And then bend your left knee so the foot is flat on the floor. So you have a couple of options. You can stay right here with the foot on the inside of the leg. You can cross the foot over, which will get you a little bit more of the stretch to the outer hip. Or if your body lets you bend your bottom knee, you can do that instead. And maybe sometimes on one side it works and on the other side it doesn't. So be nice to yourself. And then hold your bent knee with your right hand and spin to twist for a seated twist or Matsyendrasana. You may feel a strong pull, but for some of you it may be very subtle, the outer edge of the hip and thigh. Hopefully you're getting some length. You get the bonus of the torso twisting here. Notice what it feels like to breathe in this shape. Unwind. If you have your bottom leg bent, scoop it out. Uncross the legs. And then same thing to the other side. Bend your right knee. Option 1. Option 2. Or option 3. And then hold the knee with your left hand and spin the torso to the right. As you're ready, unwind. Take the bottom leg out, uncross the legs, shake it out. And then prepare to recline. So if you have some socks you want to replace, if you have your blanket nearby, make sure it's close so you can grab it. And if you have 2 blocks at home, you might like them for the final shape. When you're ready, roll down. Maybe draw the knees in towards the chest. And then leave your left foot on the floor. Take your hands to the back of your right thigh. And if you can, interlace the fingers there. And start to kick the, I don't know which side I said you were on. I think right is where your hands are. So start to kick that same foot to the sky as if to straighten your legs. So you're getting a little bit of a stretch through the back of the leg. Now your leg may not straighten all the way. If you have a strap and you prefer to use that, that's fine. And bend the knee, place that foot on the floor and switch sides. So bring the other knee in towards your chest. Bring the hands to the back of the thigh so you're holding. And then start to kick the right foot skyward. Flex the foot. So the knee is actually working here to straighten the leg. And then push the back of the thigh into the hands. Any amount. Breathe into the stretch to the back of the leg. Bend your knee, replace the foot down. Take the feet wide with the arms out like a T and let both knees fall over to the right. See if you can feel a stretch all the way down the left side body, top of the thigh. Twist on the ground. bring your knees up and over to the other side, twisting so that your right side gets the stretch. And come back through center. And bring the soles of the feet together and the knees wide. This is where it might be nice to have a block underneath the outer edge of the knee near the thigh, just to support so that your inner legs don't have to pull to hold you up. And then if you have your blanket nearby, even if you're warm, maybe cover the belly or the belly and the knees so that they have some extra warmth. Anytime you have a body part that you're either working hard or trying to heal, you want to keep it as warm as possible. So reclined butterfly shape. Let your arms come out to the side. And feel your bones heavy against the earth. And say thank you, bones, for holding me up. Give your bones permission to rest. If you want to straighten your legs out for corpse pose, rest your whole body here on the ground. I am this body. And I am so much more than this body. Take a breath in through the nose. Let it fill your head and reach all the way through your body down to your feet. Draw your knees in for a squeeze, and then roll off to one side and curl up into a ball for a moment. Your knees are close to you there. When you're ready, press yourself up to a comfortable seat. The Capricorn is goat. And part of his story is as a sea goat, but imagine him as a mountain goat for now, climbing up the side of a rocky mountain. Maybe you did something similar today. It's strong, stable knees that help in the climb and also to stand on the uneven ground in order to get to the top so that you can see the beautiful view and feel your sense of accomplishment. Capricorns can look wide and far. They have a big vision for the future. What is your vision for the future? How do you want to move into your future? Or even into the rest of your day? And how will you take personal responsibility for the way in which you move and show up? Thank you for showing up here and now. We've gotten to the end of it, so that is an accomplishment. And I hope you walk with confidence into the rest of your day or evening, whatever it is you choose to do. Thank you so much for joining me. Next time, we'll be working with Aquarius, which is the shins and ankles. So if you want a little bit more about stability, supporting your structure, that's what we'll be working on in Aquarius yoga.